The Honorable Senator Tom Cotton. Senator Cotton, it's great having you on the Mike Gallagher Show. How are you, sir?
Hello, Mike. It's good to be on with you.
I so appreciate you taking some time. We want to get into tax reform and this border adjustment tax, but first, if you don't mind, there's been so much said over the last few days over Russia. We've got this never-ending narrative that there's concern about the Trump campaign collusion with Russia, Jared Kushner. I loved an audio clip that we played from CNN, former Ohio legislator, former Ohio Democrat, Nina Turner was asked by CNN about these stories about the White House and Russia. And she said, listen, people in Ohio aren't worried about Russia. They're worried about jobs. They're worried about the economy. I thought that was a pretty remarkable pushback considering she's a Bernie Sanders Democrat from Ohio.
Yeah, Mike, I'm in Arkansas right now. Congress is in recess, and I can tell you not many Arkansans are speaking about the president's staff or about some of the more wild-eyed, hair-on-fire allegations you read in the media.
Right.
They are worried about jobs, or they're worried about their wages, or the security of their retirement, or the safety of their streets, or the threat that ISIS poses to us. There's an investigation going on through the Department of Justice. Bob Mueller is now the head of it. And the Senate Intelligence Committee, on which I sit, is reviewing these matters as well. And we're pretty far along in that, and we're going to follow the facts where they lead. But for the time being, I would point to Dianne Feinstein, who is on the Intelligence Committee, who used to be the senior Democrat on that committee, who's now the senior Democrat on the Judiciary Committee, meaning that she knows more than almost anyone in the Congress. And she has twice said this month that she's seen no evidence or indication of collusion or wrongdoing. And I'm glad that the president and Jared Kushner and others whose cooperation might be sought have said they want to cooperate. They want to speak for our committee and turn over documents that are necessary for us to conclude this matter, because what we want to do is conclude it in a thorough, fair, prompt manner, so we can focus on the agenda that matters to the American people.
You know, I'm starting to get a theme from my callers and listeners who are saying Republican leaders aren't pushing back sufficiently. They're not defending the agenda. They're not defending regulations being rolled back, tax reform, all these things, the border, all the things and jobs, the economy, the threat from terrorists. Frankly, you seem to be one of the few who seems to be willing to take a stand and say, I mean, I'm looking at a Politico headline. Oh, Tom Cotton has no problem with Donald Trump, and it's a pejorative. It's as if taking you to task for daring to say anything in defense of the Republican president of the United States as a leading Republican senator. I mean, can you speak to this sort of push, this back and forth, and this frustration that a lot of Americans feel about leaders not defending the president sufficiently?
Yeah, Mike, I would go a step beyond that and say Donald Trump is not the Republican president. He is our president.
Correct.
He is the president of all Americans, even those who didn't vote for him. I mean, he is a member of my party. Therefore, I'm obviously going to agree with Donald Trump more than I agreed with Barack Obama or I would have with Hillary Clinton. I support him when he's right. When I think he's wrong, I try to change his mind. And if I can't, then I have to vote for what I think is best for Arkansas.
Sure.
But my focus as a senator is primarily on the issues that matter to Arkansans, about creating more jobs, making our streets safer, restoring America's power and prestige in the world. Those are the things I hear about when I travel around Arkansas, when Arkansans come to see me.
Yep.
Yes, as a member of the Intelligence Committee, my job is not just to make sure our intelligence agencies are doing the important work necessary to keep our country safe, but also to conduct this inquiry as well. But that's not the core of our job in Congress. The core of our job is to focus on the issues that matter to the people of this country.
And as you say, Senator, the election, I truly believe, was in large measure about the economy, middle-class jobs, wages, tax relief, tax reform has to get done. Where are we today with that process, Senator?
I think we're moving along at a good pace. We're only 4 months into this presidency. The founders had a 4-year term, not a 4-month term for presidents for a good reason. A lot of the conversation is happening as it should, in private, so we can have candid exchange of ideas and we can identify what's going to work and what's not going to work, both from a policy standpoint and from getting the votes that we need to pass this legislation. But right now I feel pretty good about where we're moving on both health care and tax reform. and on a lot of other issues I'm working on as well, whether it's immigration or the defense budget, what have you. That's where most of my colleagues are as well. Even if they're not out on the radio or TV programs, they're focused on the agenda on which we all campaign and on which we want to deliver for the American people.
One of the big battles, and you talk about policy and tax reform, and one of the big fights is the border adjustment tax. We've been talking about it for a number of weeks here on my show. There's obviously a pushback from the automotive industry. There's a lot of people concerned about a tax like this. You've been quoted as saying a tax on imports is a tax on things working folks buy every single day. I'm not talking caviar and champagne. I'm talking T-shirts, jeans, shoes, baby clothes, toys, and groceries. Can you walk us through this border adjustment tax, Senator Cotton, and tell us why you're against it?
Yeah, Mike, so the border tax really is an import tax. It would allow companies to exclude from income tax anything they sell overseas, but it would also prevent them from deducting anything they buy overseas and sell here in the United States. Mm-hmm. Now, I understand the impulse behind it, some of the unfair trade flows that the president identified, but what the House of Representatives proposed, I just don't think is good, especially for working families in Arkansas. The House plan would increase tax rates on the lowest tax rate, and it would cause them to pay more for their stuff at Walmart or Dillard's or any other mom-and-pop retailer. That's simply not what we all campaigned on. And it has some troublesome resemblance to a VAT tax, a value-added tax, which anybody who's ever traveled overseas knows is the kind of national sales tax that's built into every stage of a product's manufacture and packaging and marketing. And politicians in Europe love the VAT tax because you don't see it. It's embedded in the price of a good, unlike, say, an increase in sales tax here in the U.S. or an increase in your income tax. We didn't campaign on introducing an entire new system of taxation into our federal tax system. We especially didn't campaign on making working people pay more for their stuff at Walmart. Mm-hmm. So I think, that we should go back to the drawing board. This idea does not have support in the Senate. It doesn't have support in the White House either. And we should focus on the kind of tax cuts that are going to get more money into the hands of working people who deserve it, and who, if they had that more money, I think it would be good for our economy as well.
Senator Tom Cotton is with us, talking a little bit about the border adjustment tax, also about some of the day's headlines. It's so distressing. I want to go back, if we can, for the last moments we have. I saw a story that Paul Ryan was at some event somewhere, I think it was in New Jersey, and a group of 8th grade kids wouldn't even pose for a picture with the Speaker of the House of Representatives because they're so, even 8th graders are now so politicized by what's going on in this country. Kurt Schlichter wrote a terrific piece at Town Hall. Well, I say it's terrific. Some would push back and say, well, wait a minute. His argument is the left is acting surprised that we're pushing back and hating on them every bit as much as they've been hating on us. He says that's not a good thing. It's not a good thing at all. We're not at a place where we ought to be. But that's sort of the reality. It does seem like the left does hold to a double standard. I mean, there's all this, you see violence, Trump supporters beat up and a lot of things, violence on the floor of the Texas legislature the other day. What's your overview about where things stand now? The environment we're in, the media, the Washington Post with its unnamed sources, the Fox News source that completely contradicts the Washington Post story about Jared Kushner. Where are you with all of this right now, Senator Cotton?
Mike, yesterday I got to spend Memorial Day with the Arkansas Boys State and Arkansas Girls State programs. Those are programs run by the American Legion and its auxiliary for 1 week every summer here in Arkansas. They've been going on for 75 years or more. They take high school seniors together and teach them more about America, our system of government, and the unique nature of the American experiment. They're the most enthusiastic, motivated, and promising young people you could hope to meet. Mm-hmm. And there were Democrats there, I know by the buttons they had on their shirt, but we took pictures all together. We had a good, frank exchange of views, Q&A from the stage or out in the hallway afterwards. We were taking pictures. It's very inspiring to me, and I get that sense when I travel around Arkansas a lot, that whatever happens in Washington or New York and our politics and our media, that most Americans still view this as a special country, and they know that we're obviously going to have differences of opinion, but we're all in a common project together. I wish that spirit was reflected more often in our leaders in Washington and in our media, and you realize that while we obviously are going to have disagreements, that we are still one people in one country and one common project together.
Well put. Well put. Senator Tom Cotton, I'm so honored you could spend a few minutes with us. Keep fighting the good fight. I'm glad you could join us today, sir.
Thanks, Mike.
All the best.